Sorry, this is your team here?
Are we ready there? Maybe delegation from DG again. Okay.
So from the group that have been discussing data and tools, preparedness of data and tools.
Hello. It's not working.
So we were asked to look at baseline data sets and tools and templates. During our discussions, we first of all discovered that NDMO does not have any specific baseline data, but based on things like 2009 statistics data, there was some information collected then. So we identified that there are baseline data sets that exist in the country, but they are not in one place. A lot of different organizations have different data sets, which we think can be pulled together in one place, such as the health database. They have health centers, the vehicles and transportation means right around the country, which they can offer to NDMO. We have for instance, the telecommunications and radio communications regulators database with all the telecom information on towers, and if there is a communications breakdown after the disaster, how do we quickly get the information of towers that are down and can be provided to NDMO as to where the coverage of mobile signal is so that they can progress the communications. We also have the police that are available. Data sets. The water, and I already mentioned health. So basically, there are data sets available. So what we're trying to say is that there are data sets available, but not in one place. And perhaps the next steps are to bring those data sets back to one place. And that would be probably a information system for NDMO. What we need, I mentioned earlier, we need better coordination to pull the data sets into an NDMO information management system, to bring in additional staff from the government or institutions and other stakeholders that can actually be working on updating the data set or making sure that they are updated for NDMO's initial assessments and assessments right throughout the disaster. How can the data set be shared? We think they can be shared through DMOUs between the different organizations that are the custodians of this data at the moment, between them and NDMO, so that the reason being that, and also prior to that, a clear mandate for NDMO to request data from the sources as soon as possible. So when a disaster strikes, there is no need for, say, for example, health to be waiting to provide the information, because by mandate that should be provided to NDMO immediately after the disaster. What tools do we have? There's a lot of different kinds of tools and applications being used by the various custodians of data, but we think GIS is one of the most important tools that can be used to document the different scenarios, and then the information database can be pulled into NDMO when needed. There is also discussions among the group that if you have different kinds of applications that may not be compatible, we might have difficulties. So maybe another mandate to say a database that is standard for disaster management information. As for who will take responsibility of updating and maintaining the data sets, we think it's the line ministries and the, for example, if they created an information management unit within the ministries that can be collecting and updating those data on a timely basis, so that, well, prior to the disaster anyway, so when the disaster strikes, the most updated information is with the line ministries in which they can supply to NDMO. And during the disaster and the relief or restoration efforts, those contact points can be used by NDMO during that time to continue to supply the data. And the Vanuatu National Statistics Office has also been highlighted here to help to develop and provide this data.
That's it.
Thank you.
No, that's fantastic. Take one or two questions from the floor or queries. Yep.
Sorry, just additional on the last point.
Okay.
It doesn't that the NDMO will get every data from every line ministry. It's just the data that is useful for planning to address the humanitarian. It should mean that we will get every data from lands about land boundary, whatever. Yeah, of course, some are important, but not for the lease, title, and everything. No, we'll only need the one that is relevant or can be used during emergencies.
Okay, great. All right, just got time for one or two questions here quickly. Yep. Mark, I think. Yep.
Sorry. Yesterday did the same. The only thing I was going to say is, is better? Okay. The only thing I was going to say was also I met a guy yesterday, Fred Samuel, who's the government chief information officer, who I think is a key person to be involved in that process.
Good. Okay, and one right up the back as well.
Yeah, just quickly. Information is always important in any disaster recovery or preparation process. But what is crucial, especially as you mentioned, getting data from various sources, is the format has to be really good to interact. But what is most crucial is to have harmony in gathering data. Most companies, like the private company, TVL, Digicel, whoever has various data, would like to be sure that there is a proper intellectual property act that covers their data from indiscriminate use and use beyond what is the intended purpose. So whilst data is good to collect, but if they're not convinced that their data, which is really expensive part of their assets, is not being handled properly and would be used for other purposes, then they would not be willing to lend their support.
Thank you. Good. All right, we'll move on to the next IM group that looked at customizing products and services. So if that group could give us a quick rundown of the key recommendations or key achievements and key recommendations.
Our reporting person just disappeared at the key time. Sorry, so I'll stand in. The one thing that we discussed was saying that, you know, with the we had some really good tools like the 3 Ws and all that, but they were really actually quite hard to understand. So making them more sort of visually readable. Oh man, this mic's really not liking me. So for instance, things like instead of half the people that arrived who weren't here didn't know which islands they were on, didn't know what area councils were, didn't know any of that kind of information. So maybe something more along the lines of a map where you draw the areas and get the information like that. Something similar like the shelter cluster did. There's a lot of discussion about the connection from the NDMO down to the provinces, where there were, the information wasn't flowing back down to the provincial level. So a stronger information working management group with a slash of IT on it as well. So for instance, we're talking about Tafea, who didn't have computers, didn't have a network up and running, and actually couldn't process the information at all. So the travel and the support to actually get these provinces up and running, things like BGANs to get satellite internet connectivity so information can actually flow both ways. Dedicated people who you can pick up a phone and actually communicate and get information flowing. There's also a discussion on more accurate information, the assessment data going out, getting written, coming back, taking weeks to get processed. The WASH cluster has had experience with the Department of Geology, Mines and Water Resources using mobile data, smartphones to collect information. So it was decided to actually trial that in the emergency, and it was deemed to be very successful. And then better access to products, so the agreements with government, access to existing data sets and products. And then one of the other things that came out was the frustration between there being a lot of information, but people not being able to understand it just because of the sheer volume. So one of the discussions was, again, through the IM, strengthening the IM groups, was to, for instance, a lot of the agencies kept getting asked, report what you're doing. We don't know what you're doing. We don't know where you're doing it. We don't know. But all the agencies were filling in their 3Ws and submitting them. So they kept saying, hang on, but we've told you. But obviously, from the government perspective, it wasn't actually being, they didn't have access to that information. So we're kind of talking about having a dedicated person who would read through that information and actually liaise with the government, explaining all the information that actually was happening. That's great. Was there anything else?
Okay.
Anything else? I think that's it.
Fantastic. Well done. Again, one or two quick questions from the floor or query, comments, if any. Yes, WARWICK. I think WARWICK. Yeah.
Thank you very much. From the 3W, we should be able to generate better products that are empowering provincial authorities. And again, there is some very good globally product that we should be using as models. And when we develop, again, products that are derived of the 3Ws, we need to think who are they supporting, and it needs to support coordination at a national level, but also empower the authorities at the provincial level to understand what is being done and empower them again to direct the traffic from their level. Thank you.
Okay. All right. If there's no others, we'll move on to the final group, which I think has already been flagged, is just the Information Management Working Group. So again, just the key sort of achievements and recommendations, please.
Okay, for our group, we have, I'll just present our 3 recommendations that we have here. For the first one, we have for us to link all the databases that are available in country with, and have one centralized database within NDMO and have other database linked to it and make it accessible to everyone to have a look at it. And one of our other recommendations is to have an ICT or IM person in place at the NDMO, and it had to be, his or her position has to be included into the NDMO structure. And well, we have a IM working group, and we feel that this IM working group members should be, this IM working group should consist of all the members of each cluster. I am responsible officers from each clusters, and also to include IM officers from other sectors who have, IM officers from other sectors to be part of the IM working group. And also, because at this point of time, maybe most of the positions that are with the NDMO is funded by the donors. We feel that it is a priority that the government takes up these positions, and also for donors to give more fundings to support the meetings and trainings, the IM meetings and trainings. I guess that's all.
Okay. Great. Okay. Well done. Again, any, yep. Bill? Yes.
Obviously, while having a functioning IM working group is important and useful, in my experience, often the IM people fit a certain kind of profile and tend to talk to each other in ones and zeros, whereas the rest of the world talks in a very different language. So in addition to that, I would like to recommend that in the coordination of coordinators meeting, IM be a standing topic that's discussed by the coordinators as well. So you actually talk about what you're trying to do rather than how you're doing it, which is where the IM people tend to focus.
Good, thank you. Yep, another one more, check again.
But very quickly, just build on what was stated. It is about building a culture of information sharing. Say if you're coming to a meeting like today, you're bringing your USB with you. When you go to a coordination meeting, and it doesn't have to be IM working group, it can be intercluster. You bring your data and you share your data, and you also receive data. So it is just a culture of sharing and focused on information management. Thank you.
Right. All right. Any more? One more? No? Okay, thank you so much, people working on the IM. Oh, one more question. Yep. Yeah.
No, this is the final group.
Final group.
We still have one more group.
For IM? No?
No.
That's assessment.
Assessment.
Yeah, we'll start on the assessments. You can, that group, your group can start first. That's fine. Take the lead.
Thank you. With the assessment, we were tasked to look at recommendations to improve assessment in the field. We've been talking about data collected and forwarded to the national level for analysis. Now, our group actually looked at some recommendations to improve data collection in the field. One is, given all the challenges that we have seen, we need to get people at the provincial level or the area council levels geared up to do the job immediately. And that would save a lot of money and time for people from the national level to get organized, mobilized, and have military flights going down to the provinces. So what we have recommended is that for the national government to really look at allocating funds to the provincial level, especially to help with the PCDs to conduct assessment at the province soon after disasters have occurred. And we've been talking about this assessment being done at the provincial level, but maybe we have not really looked at providing that support in terms of finances to them at the provincial level. So that's one of the first, well, it is the first recommendation that the group put forward, that the national government considers allocating budgets to the provincial government for that. The other one is to set up or really continue to strengthen the setup of PCDs and CDCs and train them in the area councils and the provincial government level so that they can be able to do the assessment as soon as time comes for them to do the assessment. If they have the skills, they have been trained, they have the money, they can do it immediately. The other thing we've seen with all of us have seen with the assessment during PAM is that because of the breakdown in communications, we depend very much on the mobile or the telephone setup, communication setup, but then when it goes down, everybody is sort of handicapped. So it is important that we look at the alternative backup communication in systems in emergencies, looking at maybe headset radios. If headset radios are not durable enough, then maybe sat phones. And yeah, I think those are the main recommendations that we've listed down to look at the provincial level to help improve data collection.
Good, thank you. Again, any quick comments? Mark?
Thank you. The only comment I had was around sort of training and strengthening the provincial PDCs and CDCs to collect information. If it's, my understanding is if it's only used for time of disaster, you know, which happens, hopefully once a year or something like that, at the point you need to use it, all of a sudden everyone's got to try and rack their brains to remember how to do it. But if we can tie it into maybe existing processes, like I know the area secretaries have to collect business licenses and births and deaths registrations and stuff like that. So if it's sort of in line with a standard weekly or monthly process, by the time we actually need it in disaster, it's sort of a set process that is known and understood.
Good, thank you, Mark. Any more? No. Oh, yep, one down the back.
Comment plemino mose yumi yusumola ola one waste la community semol area secretary with them all CDC hemi lo experience mo work community hemi approach hemi right but pro area secretary lo yumi lo mose how now you make him say mo manely involved from gross of 100% law. All area secretary, everyone all manamu. Inogata Thomas Roman inside law structure ya so. Supposing structure ya misabe ya commentator law area secretary. No one level where more woman at least inside law area secretary from you want to use some area secretary pay. Inogat plan the woman inside so question me say you use area secretary pay you must amend them one way say. Moment balik part lo area secretary so that at least they participate lo activity where you talk about. Thank you.
Okay, quick response to that. Yep.
Yeah, I think one respond by me one comment no. Thinking lo use small area council secretary hemi good. You sabla notice him lo Vanuatu that area council secretary only subject to change time council hemi change. That's why you know got continuity lo work where you want them all the time make them lo community. Once a council hemi change, all area council secretary to only change. You want them use more get lo community straight from Valgata continue with them work where you want them all get lo make them.
Okay.
Men, one comment.
Okay, thank you. Squeeze one more. I think it's up. Sorry. Oh, okay, DG.
I'd rather see disaster risk reduction as a developing issue, and would encourage there are plenty of dropouts in the rural areas. Rather than just concentrating on the area secretary, why can't we expand that to cover some of the dropouts? Because in that way you are involving the youth, rather than allowing them to come to Villa and waste their time roaming around and causing problem in Villa. So, I mean, we need to see it that way. Say, for example, I've just been home and I have, because the area secretary, it covers quite a large area. And it's just too much to cover within, especially the recent cyclone palm. But if we take the initiative of going to each village and see if there is a school event there, educate that person to be the pioneer, the champion in that village, and transfer the type of knowledge or skills to those people. Get the chief to support them, and when an event of a disaster, they do this job. We are prone to political changes, and every time when there's a change in the government, the secretary goes. Then the knowledge and everything, the skills, we lose. But if we transfer the type of knowledge to the dropouts at each community, and then the knowledge remain with the community.
Okay.
But in answering the question, what my colleague here just raised, yeah, we tend to be leaving the women and the disabled society. We need to include them in all of the exercise. We had this issue during the operation where we have the women, they walked into the office and they were protesting why we're not including the women and also the disabled society. So we need to cover them as well.
Okay. Just conscious of time, so if there are any further questions, maybe bring them up to Alice and Rashmi on that particular area. Okay, we'll go to the next group that we're looking at some of the preparedness aspects of assessment. So give us a quick outline, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, in our groups, I think most of the recommendation were set by the other group that looks after the recommendation. I think one of the achievements from the assessment is that it's been done as quick as possible just after the CPAM. And though the information were not really qualified information as we need, but at least it serves as a way to plan response and as quick as possible. The challenge was that information was given from the community to the national office, but then from the national office to the community to inform them that the information was actually captured and analyzed, and this is the way forward as as part of the information that we received. I think one of the recommendations that we I think there's already two that was actually mentioned. The other one is basically to have a detailed database and a roster for suitable, qualified, pre-identified assessor. I guess the quality of information that we received during the assessment is, we all know that there is information gap, and it costs a lot of money to send more people when it comes to disaster. So if we have qualified people that are actually trained, as the DG mentioned, we could actually receive information that is quality, and this could actually help the planning process for responding. The other one is almost every clusters have each assessment form for technical assessment. We've never come up with a finalized form to ensure consistent form in order to just, okay, we can basically say for the rest of, for 12 months, we will be using this form, and we can't really change that form until those 12 months, we end those 12 months, then we could actually review it. And in that case, in that way, we could basically see if those assessment form is actually working and is actually collecting information that we want those information to be collected. I think the other one that was already mentioned is basically to improve support capacity in provinces to collect data with budget allocated to it as well. I think basically those are some of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll take one from the floor and one comment or question, but if not. Yes, no? Yep.
We can have all the data. The other difficulty is analyzing the data. It's a big challenge for the NDMO. We had to bring in the ODI expert from the Prime Minister's office and also from the Reserve Bank to look at the data, analyze the data, and put it in a more sort of understand how we would actually interpret and also use for decision making. So I think one of the things that we have to consider as part of data and part of the assessment is analyzing the data.
Thank you. I'll hold it off, Mark. Actually, that's a segue into our last group, and actually that looked at that very aspect, some of the analysis and the consolidation of the data. So if the rapporteur for that group could give us the quick recommendations and findings.
Yeah, we looked at some recommendations for analysis. First one is, in order to have a very good analysis, we need to review the forms. The forms that we are using at the PDCs, CTCs, and as well as in DMO. We need to standardize the forms. Secondly is the initial assessment. Data analysis should be done at the provincial level. This is for the initial assessment. And then sent to NDMO. The third one is we need to standardize the format of reporting so that it is easily put out. And the fourth one is develop tools that can facilitate compilation of assessment data. Probably we have some tools that can assist us in improving the analysis of our data. And then we need national capacity data analysis, as we've just heard from the DG here, local experts in this area, and focal point to receive and analyze data. Thank you.
All right, good, thank you. All right, last comment, question before we... Yep, Mark.
I think those points are great, and in combination what was said there in terms of standardizing the assessment forms, it's actually quite easy then in peacetime to, if your forms are standard, you can actually know how you're going to analyze the information. So at the time of the disaster, you're not rushing around trying to understand what this information means, because you already know when you were trying to collect it, what you were trying to get out of it. So plugging into a tool that then just aggregates it and gives you the answers that you're expecting is actually quite straightforward. But it needs the commitment through peacetime to get all that sorted out.
Good. Thank you. All right, that's been. Thank you everyone for all the contributions. One more question. We'll take one more. Sorry. Okay. Watch. Squeeze one.
Again, very quickly. I think very important points that ability to analyze data needs to be at both provincial and national level. And each cluster needs to be able to understand what is the emerging picture that is sort of coming from the data. I think this is a very good scope for the regional clusters to add value, to work, so to strengthen the linkages and work together with the clusters to actually build the capacity. And a lot of that can be done remotely. So recommendations here for the regional clusters to be more involved and strengthening the capacity of individual clusters on data analysis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, round of applause for everybody. Great session. Thank you very much. All right, we'll have a break for 15 minutes and we'll start again at 11 o'clock, I think. Okay, thank you.